beautiful weekend to you. It's a pleasure to have you join us on News Express. For years, Abia State existed on the margins of Nigeria's governance conversation. When Nigerians discuss states showing innovation, infrastructural growth, economic expansion, or administrative competitiveness, Abia was rarely mentioned. The state became symbolic of stagnant. Both roads defined its urban centers. Salary delays became normalized. Public frustration grew year after year, while political promises recycled endlessly across election cycles. In many ways, Abia reflected the wider Nigerian governance crisis, a place where citizens had gradually stopped expecting excellence from leadership. But something changed. Today, Abia is no longer invisible in national political conversations. The state is suddenly attracting attention from economists, opposition figures, policy analysts, investors, and even rival governors quietly studying what is happening inside one of Nigeria's historically overlooked states. At the center of that attention is Governor Alex Otti, a man many now describe as one of the most closely watched subnational leaders in the country. The question is no longer whether Otti is transforming Abia. The real question now is whether governance model emerging in Abia can survive beyond the state itself. Can this approach scale nationally? Can a system that appears to be working in Abia function inside Nigeria's far more chaotic federal structure? And perhaps most importantly, is Alex Otti quietly building a template that the future of Nigerians' governance? Those questions matter because Nigeria is entering a dangerous political and economic era. Across the country, citizens are exhausted. Inflation continues squeezing households. Food prices remain painfully high. Small businesses are collapsing under rising costs. Unemployment is worsening. Insecurity remains deeply entrenched. Public trust in politicians has deteriorated dramatically. Nigerians are increasingly frustrated with governments that specialize in speeches while ordinary people struggle to survive. That frustration is creating a new political climate. In previous decades, political survival in Nigeria depended heavily on patronage networks, ethnic calculations, godfatherism, and elite alliances. Those dynamics still exist today, but increasingly, Nigerians are also demanding visible performance. Citizens want proof that governance can actually improve daily life. They want roads repaired, public institutions functioning, security strengthened, urban centers revived, economic opportunities expanded. And this is precisely why Alex Otti's administration is attracting national curiosity. Unlike many career politicians, Otti entered governance carrying a technocratic reputation built largely from his years in banking and corporate management. His supporters frequently present him as disciplined, data-driven, and focused on execution rather than political theatrics. During his campaigns, He consistently projected himself less as a traditional politician and more as a problem solver. But Nigerians have heard similar promises before. The country has produced governors who entered office promising reforms only to become consumed by the realities of Nigeria's political structure. Governance in Nigeria is rarely defeated by ambition alone. It is often destroyed by entrenched interests, bureaucratic sabotage, weak institutions, corruption networks, federal dependence, and political pressure from powerful actors resistant to change. This is why many Nigerians initially approached the Otti administration with caution. Yet, within a relatively short period, the political atmosphere around Abia began changing noticeably. Roads previously described as impossible to navigate started receiving attention. Urban renewal projects accelerated. Government communication improved. Public workers reportedly experienced greater administrative stability. Security discussions became more structured. Investors' engagement increased. Most importantly, residents themselves began projecting a renewed sense of optimism about their state. That perception shift matters enormously in Nigerian politics. Governance is not only about statistics, it is also about public confidence. Once citizens begin believing that leadership is serious, the political atmosphere changes, expectations rise, participation increases, economic confidence slowly improves, and narratives begin spreading far beyond state borders. This explains why videos from Abia and Umuahia increasingly circulate online with captions describing a new Abia. Supporters aggressively amplified images of road constructions, urban cleanup efforts, and infrastructure upgrades. Critics may question the pace or scale of reforms, but even many opponents acknowledge that the administration appears unusually active. And in modern Nigerian politics, activity itself has become politically valuable. For years, citizens became accustomed to excuses. Governments repeatedly blamed previous administrations, global economic conditions, or federal limitations while basic infrastructure collapsed around them. Nigerians lowered their expectations because disappointment became routine. In that environment, visible governance starts appearing revolutionary. But the growing fascination with Otti extends beyond roads and public works. What many observers are really studying is the broader governance philosophy emerging from Abia. There appears to be a deliberate emphasis on financial discipline, administrative coordination, visibility, and performance-based leadership. Supporters argue that Otti's corporate background is influencing how government functions. They point to efforts aimed at reducing waste, increasing accountability, and prioritizing project execution over political spectacle. This is where the conversation becomes nationally significant. Because Nigeria is currently experiencing a crisis of leadership credibility, citizens no longer trust political rhetoric automatically. Grand speeches no longer inspire confidence. Nigerians increasingly judge leaders through tangible outcomes rather than emotional campaigns. That shift is reshaping how governors are perceived nationally. A governor who demonstrates competence today can rapidly become a national political figure tomorrow. But Peter Obi's rise after his tenure in Anambra reveal how governance narratives can evolve into powerful national political branding. Whether fully accurate or politically amplified, the perception of administrative competence becomes central to Obi's appeal among millions of Nigerians searching for alternatives to traditional political elites. Alex Otti now appears to be entering a similar political space. Already, comparisons are emerging between Abia and neighboring states. Citizens are asking difficult questions about governance standards. Why do some states appear more active than others? Why are certain governors visible while others seem politically absent? Why are some administrations aggressively pursuing reforms while others remain trapped in old political habits? This comparative politics creates pressure across Nigeria. Governors understand that public perception matters more today than ever before. Social media fundamentally change governance visibility. Citizens now document infrastructure failures instantly. They compare states online daily. A road completed in one state becomes political pressure in another. Governance is no longer local. It is nationalized through digital visibility. Otti appears highly aware of this reality. His administration consistently projects momentum. Meetings with investors are publicized strategically. Infrastructure inspections are documented. Security engagements are highlighted. Public communications remains active. The government seems determined not only to govern but also to shape the narrative around governance. Still, there are important limits to the Abia model, because governing Nigeria is fundamentally different from governing a state. At the federal level, complexity multiplies aggressively. Ethnic tensions become more explosive. Security challenges become nationwide. Economic policy affects millions instantly. International pressures increase. Regional balancing becomes politically sensitive. Coalition management becomes essential. Presidential leadership in Nigeria demands not only competence but also harmonious political survival skills. There is where many technocratic governance models struggle. Administrative efficiency alone rarely guarantees national political success. Nigeria's presidency requires navigating entrenched interests capable of resisting reforms aggressively. Federal politics is often less about political design and more about managing competing power centers simultaneously. Critics therefore warn against over-romanticizing state-level performance. Some argue that the excitement surrounding Otti partly reflects how low governance expectations have fallen nationally. Others caution that infrastructure visibility can sometimes overshadow deeper structural economic problems. Roads and urban renewal create strong public impressions, but long-term transformation requires sustainable job creation, industrial growth, healthcare expansion, educational reforms, and institutional strengthening. These are far more difficult challenges. There is also the financial sustainability question. Can Abia maintain its current pace of development without accumulating future fiscal pressures? Can governance momentum survive prolonged economic instability nationally? Can reform efforts withstand political resistance over multiple election cycles? Nigerian history contains many administrations that started strongly before gradually slowly under systemic pressure. But despite these uncertainties, one fact remains undeniable. Alex Otti has successfully repositioned Abia within Nigeria's national political conversation. And that achievement alone carries enormous significance. For decades, many Nigerians view governance failure as inevitable. Corruption became normalized. Underperformance became expected. Citizens lost confidence that serious leadership could exist within the system. But when one state begins projecting visible improvements, however imperfect, it disrupts national cynicism. People begin imagining alternatives again. This may ultimately become the most important aspect of the Otti phenomenon. Not merely roads or infrastructure, but the restoration of expectation itself. Nigerians are once again discussing governance standards. They are debating competence. They are comparing leadership models. They are questioning why effective administration appears possible in some places but absent in others. The conversation could shape the future of Nigerian politics, because as the 2027 elections approach, the country is entering a period where governance records may matter more than political slogans. Citizens are increasingly skeptical of recycled promises. They understand they want leaders who can point to measurable outcomes rather than endless rhetorics. Whether Alex Otti eventually becomes part of that larger national equation remains uncertain. But one thing is already clear. Abia is no longer just another state struggling for relevance inside Nigerian political system. It has become a case study, a test of whether competence, visibility, administrative discipline, and performance-driven leadership can still inspire public confidence in modern Nigeria. And across the country, millions of Nigerians are watching closely. For more updates and in-depth analysis, stay with us on News Express. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I am Kasitoni, and many thanks for watching.